Thank you again for being here, Heather. I really appreciate the time. So, to kick off this episode, I'd love to hear a bit about, you know, what got you into this field? How did you kind of end up in the position you are today? One of our previous guests, Hoda, had recommended I reach out to you. She spoke super highly, of the influence you had on her, and she's actually pursued a role in career development now as a result of some of what she's learned along the way. So, would love to hear a bit about your background as we get started with this episode because I've learned a tremendous amount from hearing people's career journeys. And I think our viewers really enjoy hearing, how you went about taking your steps along the way. So, yeah, really curious to hear just a bit about how you got to where you are today, Heather.
Sure. Thanks, Imran. So happy to be here as well. I'm actually been in the career development field for over 20 years, just over 20 years. Um, and I kind of stumbled upon it, actually. I had been working at the Canadian Red Cross Society,
Oh, wow.
scheduling home health care for elderly people who wanted to remain in their homes and not yet go into retirement residences and care. And I found that job through networking. Um, Prior to that job, I went to Sheridan College for a year studying general arts and sciences. I kind of didn't know what I wanted to do, to be quite honest, but I did land a job in the nonprofit sector, and I really enjoyed helping people and being part of a company and organization that is looking after the well-being of others. Um, but it didn't quite feel like working with seniors. Was my thing entirely. And I
Yeah.
was doing a lot of admin tasks, a lot of scheduling tasks. So I decided to explore um, other options for myself. And I actually signed up for a, a drumming class.
Right on.
And I wanted to do something creative, right? To tap into my creativity, do something fun to get in the right mindset and energetic place to
Oh,
make
how cool.
decisions. Yeah, and that's really important, I think. Um, so I signed up for a drumming circle. I participated in that for a couple of years, but at the beginning of that, the lessons and the weekly group sessions, I met someone who worked as a private career practitioner and counselor. She was actually a therapist, and she had a private practice with her husband, who was not a retired lawyer, but he retired from his career in law. And she had worked in, the nonprofit employment services community and then moved on to one-on-one work. So I booked a session with her, and
Yeah.
I really loved what she shared about her career. And she had mentioned a career counseling training program at George Brown College in Toronto. So I looked into it. I registered. I attended a group interview, orientation session, went through that, was successful, accepted. And I absolutely loved the training. And I knew right away this is a really strong fit for my personality, my values, and my skill and my, I guess, desire to help others as well. I naturally enjoy listening to others, hearing about their life story as well, their career journeys, their interests, their hobbies. And so it was successful, educational experience for me. I struggled with math in high school. I didn't actually pass high school. So when I moved from the East Coast to Ontario, I had to do some upskilling to get high school diploma equivalency. And when I applied to George Brown, I was a mom. My son actually started junior kindergarten when I started college. So he
Oh,
was beginning his early, years of learning, and I was beginning college,
yeah, just
my college training.
tag teaming the first day of school.
Exactly. It was a lot of fun. Um, and so, in the career counseling program at that time, the program was very much like a boot camp. It was rapid. It was like a 3-year program diploma condensed into a year. Because I didn't have a degree, I did it in 16 months. So I had some prior courses to take. Um, and it was a wild ride, but I loved the counseling techniques that I learned. I discovered I loved facilitating and training. And I liked the creative and nurturing aspect of career consulting as well. You're really holding space for people, taking care of them. When people come to you looking for a job, there's so much happening in their lives. It's not just about a job, you know?
100%.
So really using active listening and exercising compassion for others, I was able to do easily through my training and throughout my career. Um, so that was early on, you know, and I did two practicums, solid career work history, in fact, for the last, you know, 22 years in employment services. I haven't deviated into another industry, and I'm not sure I will. Maybe I will do some consulting eventually. Um, but the same values and desires I had in my education and training, I still have as a project manager. So I'm in a very different role now. I support a team
Yeah.
who help clients train for careers. In my current project, it's working with racialized and newcomer women and women who experience a lot of barriers to employment. And I would say the most of my work experiences and roles have been in, you know, gender specific programming for women. That's always been a special place, I think, in my heart. And I've experienced, you know, part of my life journey as a single parent. So I could relate to some of the challenges that women have in developing a career and accessing resources and just having the support, the emotional support, financial support to be strong and resilient and grow a professional career and support your family or child or children. Um,
Oh, that's
and
so.
I love the community aspect of the work that I do. You know, my colleagues throughout the years, always really heart-centered people, people who are in it to make change, to level the playing field, to do work in human services, you know. So
Yes.
that's kind of where I'm starting to talk about my career journey. But if you have any questions,
Oh,
we can,
I have a ton of
yeah.
questions. So first of all, um, thank you so much for sharing, these moments along the way with me because I really do think we learn a lot from, our guests' honest and vulnerable, sort of stories here. So thank you for mentioning, your experience with not finishing high school and having to navigate that and having to navigate being a single parent, going back to school. um, for the folks watching this, some of those stories are what I think help them connect to the advice
Mhm.
and the insights you provide because it's coming from someone who knows what they might be going through. So thank you so much for doing that. Um, I actually do want to ask you some questions about things
Yeah.
you navigated early in your career, but one thing you mentioned kind of later in the stages of your career was around these kind of auxiliary skills. I think, folks like yourself, in particular yourself, having just kind of spoken to many practitioners over the past few months here, um, that I think are necessary to be even more effective as a career development service provider. I don't think it's just about providing resume advice and interview tips. It's kind of like you said, people who are looking for a job have potentially other things going on, and not everyone, right? Everyone has a
Mhm.
unique story, but there can be there can be so many other questions or factors involved in helping a job seeker. And I'm just curious, um, kind of for the career development professionals watching this, do you have any advice on the skills that, you as a service provider um, should focus on or develop so that you can kind of cater to those other things that might be happening? Does that make sense as a question?
Yes, I think I understand. Well, along my career journey as well, I studied yoga and I became a certified hatha yoga instructor. I never taught it that much, but I did it for my own interest
Right.
and my commitment to helping people manage their mental health and well-being. Because working frontline, many of my early years in my career working frontline in downtown Toronto, I mean, clients have such complex um, circumstances and mental health or health issues that I think if you work in this field, anyone who's a social worker, it's a great skill set to have to work in specializing career and employment services. Um, Listening, effective listening skills are really important. Counseling techniques, life skills training and coaching is a really great skill set to add on. Also, career assessment tools, being well trained in how to administer and use those, especially when working with vulnerable people. It might not even be suitable, to be quite honest, depending on where they're at in their health and well-being. But they can be great resources to help people explore suitable career pathways for them, for themselves. I think in addition to career counseling training, which I mean, I'll reference George Brown, of course, because that's where I trained. And all of the graduates that I have worked with throughout my career journey and the students that I continue, I support and train now in my career, they are very well skilled and prepared to work as a job coach, consultant, job developer, workshop facilitator. These are the really key skills at the entry point into career development field. And then from there, training in project management, quite honestly, if you work in project-based programs, which I have throughout my career, project management skills and training, that's something I'm looking at exploring and getting my PMP.
Nice.
Because when you manage, budgets and especially multiple projects, I only manage one and a half right now. Um, I think employers and people in this industry are looking, large organizations especially, they're really looking for people who have the project management skill set. So if someone wants to grow into a management role, I think leadership courses and training and project management courses or certification would be ideal. But
Okay.
earlier in the profession, um, counseling, listening, even sales skills and training, because if you work as a job developer or workforce development coach, you need to engage a lot with employers and industry, and you need to have the right communication skills and acumen to do that, and personality. I do believe anyone can perform any job. However, there are some personality traits and styles that work really well and just can move quickly and execute tasks quickly because they're just naturally inclined and talented. Um,
Okay.
yeah.
That is super helpful because I've spoken to a number of, folks who are new to the field and the profession. And
Hmm.
I am certainly getting the sense that many of them can quickly get overwhelmed because the job is not cut and dry.
Hmm.
It's not just about providing career advice and support. And there is a need for, some counseling training, some life skills training. And so it's, I think, helpful to kind of articulate what some of those areas are for folks watching
Hmm.
this, trying to better themselves as professionals. So thank you for
Absolutely.
the insights. Yeah, on
Yeah.
that. And you mentioned the yoga. I just had a question around that
Mhm.
because it's a taxing job. It's extremely important work, helping people find these roles, making sure that they, have a way to support their family and their own ambitions. But again, from what I am hearing, it's difficult work at times. And so, was the yoga something you did, um, for yourself to kind of maintain your own, um, you know, just sort of de-stress, or was that something you recommended, or how did that tie in?
Well, I did two things actually that are personal and professionally areas of interest, which is health and wellness, and they really benefit my work as a manager and as a, career practitioner, someone in the field. Um, I studied yoga out of interest and for I knowing how taxing, there's a lot of emotional heavy lifting in this work. I knew that I would need a tool and something that could help me. And as a single parent, and I also come from a family of mental health and addiction. So I'm very aware of if I'm going to work in a helping profession, I'm sure that lived experience, the family history gave me a gift of empathy, of being able to handle clients who are in crisis mode, um, and to be a caretaker, because that was my role in my family, right? Um, so through our, say, wounds in life or our challenges, we also develop really strong skill sets and gifts. And So studying yoga was interest. I had a friend when I was younger whose mom was a career professional. I grew up in a very rural part of Newfoundland on the eastern coast of Canada. And so most women didn't work outside the home. But I had a friend whose mom was a professional and she studied yoga. And so I was always in awe of her spirituality, her mindset, the exercises that she did, the self-care. That's why I studied yoga. And I did help clients. I've trained staff on how to use breathing techniques for stress reduction and for centering themselves, for energizing themselves, better sleep, etc.
Huh.
So that's been a personal benefit, and of course, helping, my project teams, clients that have been served. And I also studied health coach training several years ago at the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. And although that training may sound like it's about, food and diet and dietary theories, which small part of it is, the most important part of the training was coaching and work, helping people find meaningful work. It's such an important part of our well-being. Um, and I did that out of interest and again to hone in on coaching skills. And I do believe one day, I mean, I will stay in this profession, but I know it's just timing that I will probably offer some coaching and consulting as a side hustle, I guess.
Yeah.
And it's a passion area, and it's really an area where I feel on purpose and gifted in. Um, but it has definitely benefited my own personal growth, but also it helps professionally, certainly. So I would, in anyone who's working in social services, employment services, their self-care game has to be quite strong. It's very complex now. I've seen a huge change in our clients' needs and their mental health. And I think we're actually seeing, more programming and more attention, more resources given to staff and service, frontline service providers. That's wonderful to see because it's necessary. It's not a nice thing to have or do, go to yoga, meditate. It's actually, I would say, some form of exercise as well, physical, spiritual, emotional health. One must do something for that. Probably in every profession, you
Absolutely.
know, different careers, especially if you're a career driven and minded person and you want to grow or you want to take on additional responsibilities and learn, you have to have the energy and definitely, the mindset to push. Mhm.
Absolutely. I think especially if you're kind of taking on a caretaker role, as you said,
Mhm.
that comes from a deep place, and I do think that's important to nurture. And I do hope you do the coaching, Heather. I think a lot of people could benefit from it. And again, thank you for sharing, your story. I have my own experience with family members that have struggled with
Mhm.
mental health and addiction as well. So I definitely resonate with the need for um, maintaining your own energy and strength in that way. And I do think that this is a profession that um, could definitely is in need of just awareness around the tools and resources and practices that can help people who take on this role
Mhm.
remain energetic and that they do take care of themselves as well. So super tangible to
Mhm.
mention something like this, and it can be different things for different people, but I really
Absolutely.
appreciate a kind of concrete example. So uh,
Yeah.
yeah, thank you for sharing that one. Um, I want to get back to your drumming circle because if I turned the camera around, you would see all the musical instruments I have. But I have to ask
That's
another
cool.
question because of
Yeah.
something else you mentioned, uh,
Okay.
which was around, finding meaningful work. And I think that's something that people struggle with as they transition,
Mhm.
whether it's school to work or one job to the next. There's that in between period where I think people ask themselves, what do I want to do?
Mhm.
And do you have guidance for how to navigate that phase of, your career? And I think maybe it can happen more than once. Uh,
Absolutely. I have a new thought about that too, which I'll get to, but definitely getting help and the support of a trained career counselor or someone who is successful in their career journey, because they would have likely have a lot of wisdom to share, I think. Um, it can start simply with having conversations with others and just finding out about, or trying to connect to people who seem to really enjoy their work or their life, and finding out what led them to their career or why they enjoy their work. If someone has absolutely no clue what to do, or they lack occupational knowledge, and they're say a young person or someone who has been out of the workforce or never entered the workforce, I think the first thing would be to educate yourself about the labor market. And there's lots of free services and programs out there for individuals to do that. So it doesn't cost anything but time, right? And attention. There's career assessment tools, which often can be a good starting point to get a conversation going or to help someone, wow, I never thought I would be good at these different types of jobs. And it opens up their mind and it gives them a sense of hope and some energy to start exploring further. One of the key things I think is knowing how to conduct an informational interview or a coffee chat with someone. And it's very casual, but I think a lot of job seekers or career changers, some get nervous about that, contacting people they don't know on LinkedIn, for example, or just asking their friends and family or people within their community. So getting the help of a professional is definitely key. And I think finding meaningful work, it's a journey. It's not easy. And if you can't find meaningful work, but you have a well-paying job or a job that you can do, find meaning in other areas of your life. That's just as rewarding and
Yeah,
beneficial to one's life and well-being too. I think sometimes people focus a lot on their work and their career. And now you can lose it like that and have to pivot and change and job search. There's no real job security. You always have to, even though I've been in the same industry 20 years, I work on projects where, like the project I'm on now, it ends next year. I don't know if I'll get another gig at the company I'm at now. Um, and I'm okay with that because I've only been unemployed for 4 months throughout my 20-year career in this industry. But I think people need to explore, take the time to explore if they can. If you need a survival job while you're looking for meaningful work, looking for your purpose, helping others. Job search is social. Get involved, try new things. That's why I tried drumming. I used to take dance classes, volunteer, for the Distress Center of Peel when I first moved. Do other things to just give you some more insights. Put yourself out into the world
yeah.
before you make a commitment to going back to school or changing careers or borrowing money to do more training. Give it some time and thought and take risks, so take calculated risks, I guess.
Yes,
Right.
absolutely.
Mhm.
I agree, and I do think there are ways to do some of these things that make them less daunting. Like as you once you kind of wrapped your head around the idea of doing something like an informational interview,
Yeah.
you know, if you see someone, you're like, ah, they look like they're super happy and they're doing something interesting, right? It can
Mhm.
just be a, hey, do you have 5 minutes to answer? And you just write a little list of questions. Um, and
Exactly.
I've done that many times, and some people will never respond, and some people
Hmm.
do.
Yeah.
And you haven't committed yourself to a new industry or a new field. You just get this 5-minute opportunity to learn a bit about it. So I think that one is super doable, and it's funny you mentioned taking the dance classes. There was a point in my career too where I thought my background's in engineering.
Hmm.
Um, I did just one too many finite element analysis equation. Decided
Hmm.
I don't want to do this anymore. And I saw an ad for no experience required dance instructors.
Oh, wow.
I was like, you
Cool.
know what? I'm gonna go check it out. And so, I was there for a couple days, and not for me. Uh,
Hmm.
but I so agree with you. It was so worth going, being in a totally new and completely unfamiliar environment. Um, it's interesting what you can learn from that. And I am curious, maybe just, I know we're at the end of the time I asked you for today. So the last quick question I have is just around, what interested you in doing something like the drumming circle? Because it's funny that you ended up meeting someone there that kind
Yeah.
of, introduced you to the career you've ended up in. but drumming obviously is so unrelated
Yeah.
in a way. So I just think it's interesting you kind of took that opportunity on and yeah, what made you pick drumming?
Um, I think when I was younger, I wanted to be a dancer, a dance instructor, and I really liked music with a lot of rhythm and percussion. Where I grew up, very rural, there's less than 200 people in my village. It's not even a town. In Newfoundland, I always desired to dance, to act, to do improv. I was funny. I was a good dance. I could dance before I could walk, my mom told me. So I always liked rhythm and music. And then when I moved to Toronto, I did all the things I couldn't do growing up as a child, as a teenager. And drumming, I thought, well, I think I'd be good at it. And I think it would be easy learning guitar, piano at the, stage of my life. I thought that might take a long time. And I was right. I just knew instinctively. And I guess the type of music that I like as well. So I did it and I still have two drums. And I don't play them anymore, but I will never give them away. And I think I was part of a circle. We performed, there's this guy Mutati used to do an international drumming festival at Queen's Park every year. I used to perform with a group there. Just so much fun.
That's so cool. And I think that's really interesting. You just sort of gave yourself a chance to try something you were interested
Exactly.
in.
And
And
it helped lead me to develop a career for
yeah,
myself, meeting the right people. So if you put yourself in the areas that you are drawn to, whether it makes sense to you or not, just at least put your foot in the water. At least put yourself around the kind of people, uh, activities that you think resonate with you, even.
yeah, and that is networking, right? Without even
Yeah.
really
Without calling it networking. Yeah.
yeah. Well, I know I have to let you go, Heather. I really hope we can have you back on some point in the future because it's been really great chatting with you. And is there anything you would kind of like to leave, folks watching this episode with, whether they're other professionals or job seekers, kind of as we close this episode out?
I think we learn the most from each other, and I would suggest people can like technology is really great. However, connect with people, talk to people, go to information sessions, try new things, but really start connecting with others to start to unravel more about who you are. I think I would suggest that. Don't hide behind a computer. Stop searching all the time. Like get out there, talk to people, set up meetings in person, online, but have live conversations with humans.
And that's great advice.
Yeah.
And thank you again for the time today, Heather. I couldn't agree more. I do think that's uh, that's the fun of it too, is getting to connect
Yeah.
with other people. So
Hmm.
thank you for the chance to connect with with you today, and truly appreciate the insights.
You're most welcome, and I'd love to come back. Feel free to reach out, and I can't wait to see the recording and share it with others. And definitely, we're connected on LinkedIn, Imran. So if there's anyone else I could connect you to as well, please let me know. It's been a real pleasure.
I absolutely will, and I'll let you know as soon as it's ready.
Thank you. Take care.
Have a good one, Heather. Bye.
Bye.